What's up, home kids? We are here to do our first of 3 lectures on biodiversity, and our first dive into critters and wild coolness of critters is single-celled organisms. So today we're going to talk about all things that are just one cell. This includes bacteria, it includes archaea, and it includes protists, a group of single-celled eukaryotes called protists. And we're going to look at our cladogram to see how relationships are and the evolutionary relationships between these kinds of groups. But we're going to talk about each of these individual groups. I have an image here of a eukaryotic single-celled critter. This is a protist. You can actually, I'm pretty sure that this right here that I'm coloring in for you, because now it really looks beautiful. What? Why did I color that in? I'm pretty sure that that is the nucleus of this critter, which indicates that indeed it is a eukaryote, and it also, therefore, look at its single-celled nature, and we would call it a protist. I have a picture here of germ relationships, which makes me think, I put it in here, I thought it was cute, germs and their relationships, and one of them saying to the other one, "You make me sick," which means, you know, they're having problems. It's time to go to therapy and work on their relationship issues. But another reason why I brought it to you is because I'm like, dude, what is a germ? And it's probably important when we're talking about single-celled critters that we go, okay, what is a germ exactly? And as I sat here and attempted to prepare for this lecture, I was like, dude, I have a sense of what a germ isn't. I definitely, like, when I think of a parasite, a single-celled parasite, eukaryote, like malaria, I don't consider malaria a germ, which made me go, okay, well, maybe I only consider germs to be like prokaryotes, like bacteria. But then, like, I don't consider all, maybe I consider all bacteria, like the good bacteria in my gut. Do I ever think of them as germs? Not really. I think of germs as not a good thing. Viruses, do I think of viruses as germs? So basically, here's the bottom line. Your take-home message is germ means nothing. Like, nobody knows what that is. That is an unscientific term. Secondly, I think of prokaryotes as being germs, and both of these guys have nuclei, which means they aren't prokaryotes in the first place. So I have some problems with this cartoon that I brought to you, but I thought it was cute anyway, so I brought it anyway. Let's look at the overview. We've seen this image before. This is our giant, like, sort of fleshed out cladogram. It's a little bit messier than what we are going to do in this class, but I just want to remind you that we started with Luca, our last universal common ancestor. That was a prokaryotic cell. And Luca, and we already talked about this, Luca gave rise to a prokaryotic line of bacteria, and then also gave rise to another line that includes archaea, which is also a prokaryote, and all eukaryotes. So archaeans are more closely related to eukaryotes than they are to bacteria. And how do we know that? We look at the recency of the common ancestor. I'm going to throw some letters on here. Ancestor A is older. It's less recent, more old. Then ancestor B. Ancestor B is a more recent common ancestor. And because bacteria and archaea share a later common, an older common ancestor, they aren't as closely related to each other as archaea and eukarya are. When it comes to protists, protists are found in this clan of eukaryotes. And we'll talk about how they fit in, because they're not, in fact, we should probably put them in parentheses. I mean, that's not parentheses. Those are quotation marks. we're going to put them in quotation marks because they aren't a group that they don't share a common ancestor. All protists are not closely related to each other. Now, if you were to look at, and I think we've talked about this before, if you were to look at bacteria and archaea and just superficially look at them, maybe even microscope them, you would definitely think, dude, they're both prokaryotes. They have to be related to each other. And it turns out that there was a dude named Carl Weiss. I think that's how I spell it. W-O-E-S-E. It is how I spell it. Back in 1977, I was 2 years old at that time. He looked at the genetics of bacteria and archaea. He picked a couple of species. He didn't know they were different or unique. He just grabbed a couple species and he actually ended up looking at their at genes that coded for ribosomal DNA, or RNA. And these genes code for this, and he found that the rRNA genes with archaeans were more similar to rRNA genes in eukaryotes. And at the time, he was like, dude, I'm pretty sure this whole group of things, I'm pretty sure these things right here, I'm pretty sure they are not bacteria. And everybody's like, dude, you are so full of doo-doo. Carl. How many stories of scientists do we have where somebody says, I don't think that's how it works. And then we discover, everybody's like, that's just ridiculous. We've never done it like that before. And turns out he's 100% right. And then discovers that there's this entire group, this entire kingdom of critters that is unique and separate. They're not actually bacteria, even though they're prokaryotes. Thank you, Carl, for doing the brave work of discovering this. Now, today's lecture, we're going to talk about bacteria first. And we're going to talk about antibiotics as well and antibiotic resistance, because I think this is something that you shouldn't come out of a biology class not understanding or not being able to talk about. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about archaeans. I don't know, personally, if you take a microbiology course, you will go into prokaryote land and learn gobs and gobs and gobs of really cool information. But they're not as fun to look at, and we can't like pick up a rock and see them. And so to me, they're like not quite as cool as the next 2-3 lectures that we're going to do, which are all going to be focused on multicellular critters. But then we're going to talk about how we got eukaryotes from our prokaryotic LUCA cell back in 3.7 billion years ago. How did we go from prokaryotes to eukaryotes? What happened there? And then we're going to talk about benefits of multicellularity, which after that, almost everything we talk about will be multicellular. Okay, does that sound good? Is that a good plan for us? Carry on, folks.